Defense, F-16 and F-35 deadlock. Rewind to 2019. Turkey purchased the Russian S-400 defense system. The U.S. responded with the sanctions and kicked Turkey out of the F-35 program. That decision wasn't just about jets. It crushed Turkey's three-decade dream of operating fifth-generation fighters. Since then, Erdogan's #1 goal has been to reopen that door. During the press conference, Trump said, "This guy is stubborn. Normally I don't like people who insist too much, but I've always liked Erdogan." Yes, Turkey is stubborn about rejoining the F-35 program, but after this meeting, nothing has changed. Congress remains the wall. No deal, no progress. Energy. The $43 billion gas agreement. One of the most concrete outcomes was energy. Turkey signed a deal to import 4 billion cubic meters of U.S. LNG annually for 20 years. Price tag? $43 billion. But here's the contradiction. In 2020, Turkey announced it had discovered 710 billion cubic meters of natural gas in the Black Sea. That was hailed as a historic breakthrough. So why import expensive gas from 12,000 kilometers away when neighbors like Russia, Azerbaijan, Iran, and Turkmenistan offer cheaper pipeline gas? The answer: politics, not economics. Washington's aim is clear: weaken Turkey, add energy ties with Moscow, and bind Ankara to U.S. supplies, just like it did with Europe. For Turkey, the price is heavy. In 2024, energy imports already surpassed $45 billion. With this new deal, costs will rise further. Subsidies on household gas bills are being lifted, so ordinary citizens will feel the impact soon. Remember this deal when prices go up. Aviation, Turkish Airlines chooses Boeing. The second big deal came in aviation. Turkish Airlines signed for more than 200 Boeing aircraft, including 787 Dreamliners and 737 MAX planes, plus engines, parts, and maintenance packages. This isn't just commercial. Until now, TO balanced its fleet between Airbus and Boeing. With this order, the balance tips heavily toward the U.S. strategically. That means dependence. Economically, it's risky. Boeing has faced multiple safety scandals in recent years. Remember the 737 MAX crashes? Yet Turkey is betting billions on them. So, after energy, Turkey is also tied to Washington in the skies. Trade, concessions without returns. Next, trade. Ankara reduced tariffs on American goods, originally imposed in 2018. Trump presented this as goodwill. But what did Turkey gain in return? Nothing. 2024 numbers tell the story. Exports to the U.S., $16 billion. Imports from the U.S., over $20 billion. So the trade deficit widens. Again, no win for Ankara. Nuclear cooperation, double dependency. Another critical development, a nuclear cooperation framework signed by Turkish Energy Minister Bayraktar and U.S. Secretary of State Rubio. Turkey already works with Russia on the Akuyu plant. Now the U.S. is stepping in. This means Ankara is simultaneously dependent on both Washington and Moscow for nuclear technology. A balance in theory, but in practice, it's double dependency. Trump's tone, friendly but mocking. Trump's language throughout was revealing. At the press conference, he joked about rigged elections, pointing at Erdogan. He knows better than anyone. He constantly referred to Erdogan as this guy, never using respectful titles. About the Turkish delegation, he said, "They're very smart. Maybe too smart. I wish they weren't so smart." On the surface, it sounded like humor. In reality, it was patronizing. It showed exactly how Washington views Ankara, difficult to control, but still manipulable. 7. Gaza. Silence at the table. Perhaps the most shocking part, Gaza wasn't even discussed. Trump openly said, "I don't know what Erdogan thinks about Gaza." That statement destroys Ankara's months-long rhetoric that Gaza is our red line. If Erdogan had actually raised it forcefully in Washington, Trump couldn't have made that comment. This silence undermines Erdogan's long-standing image as a defender of the oppressed. At the UN, he delivered fiery speeches, but at the decisive moment, Gaza simply vanished from the agenda. Domestic spin, the power of images. Back in Turkey, pro-government media flooded social media. Trump waiting at the door, Trump pulling out a chair, Trump calling Erdogan a great guy. These gestures were framed as historic respect. But in reality, Turkey walked away with costly obligations and no tangible gains. True prestige isn't in a photo op. It's in saying, "We don't need your gas for 20 years. It's in confronting Washington on Israel. It's in negotiating equal trade terms. That didn't happen. Conclusion: a shopping receipt, not a victory. So who won? Clearly, Donald Trump. The U.S. secured energy, aviation, trade, and nuclear gains. Turkey left with nothing but an expensive bill. This wasn't a diplomatic triumph. It was a shopping receipt. And the bill will be paid not by politicians, but by Turkish citizens. Yes, the photos looked impressive, but beneath them lies a heavy price. This meeting shows once again, America plays chess. Turkey, unfortunately, was just another piece on the board. Friends, that's the real story of Erdogan's meeting with Trump. If Ankara had gained as much as Washington, I would gladly say this was a win. But the reality is clear. America gained. Turkey paid. Thanks for watching. What do you think? Was this diplomacy or just another expensive receipt? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more in-depth analysis. See you in the next video.